open to working with KMART is because I see huge amounts of potential. I see huge amounts of value-added SEO strategies, even within a 3 to 6 month period. I see myself being able to add a tremendous amount of value to the existing SEO team, and with the ultimate goal of increasing traffic and online sales. And so some of the issues that I've found with KMART need extensive, detailed auditing, but I wanted to raise issues in terms of genuinely technical SEO issues that is holding back even more traffic than you've already achieving currently, but at the same time also improving existing SEO that you can capture more traffic, more clicks, reach more people. And so the way we approach our SEO, a big part of how we approach it is we study page by page, really. And we understand what is the best keywords for that page. How do we optimize the accessibility and internal linking? How do we improve the site architecture to dramatically improve sales and increasing qualified traffic? At the end of the day, we want to increase qualified traffic from customers that aren't necessarily searching for a product from KMART, but they are obviously interested in a particular product nevertheless. And so if someone goes to Google and types in KMART, that's not really SEO. The SEO is, men's bomber jackets, which we'll get into, and making sure that we're ranking above Maya, and so forth, right? And so we'll get into that. So some of the strategies that I found we can improve tremendously initially is the breadcrumbs and the URL structure. So hopefully you can see this, but generally in the URL currently, let's say the women's flats. You've got the URL with the word category. Now, the reason that I'm against using the word category in a URL is ultimately because the word category is not a search for term. So it's a wasted real estate. Very similar to walking to a Coles or Woolworths supermarket, what you actually have in the first position is like the aisle one. So you expect to find yogurt in, let's say I want Dairy Farmers yogurt. I expect to find that in aisle where the dairy is. So dairy, yogurt, Dairy Farmers. That is the logical progression to that particular product. So, and each step of the way is a search engine friendly keyword. So category, for example, is not a search engine friendly keyword. It's a waste. It's actually in the most dominant position of a URL after the actual domain itself. So after kmart.com.au, the next best optimized keyword that we would want in that structure is not category. Why? Again, because it's not being searched for. So the way in which we would do it would be something immediately improving it. Sorry, just gonna do it instead. Would be women's, perhaps something like women's, and then shoes, and then flats. You don't need to have women's again and again. You don't need to repeat the keyword in URL. Now, women and women's is obviously a different context. So having women and women's can be useful at times because the singular keyword is a different context than a plural keyword. But in this example, I would have women's / shoes / flats. And in the breadcrumb, which has home, women's shoes, flats, you want to make sure that this matches exactly the URL structure. So women's, shoes, flats. Sometimes I've browsed to other parts of the page and I've seen the word category in there. And I'm thinking that's just, again, a waste. We don't want it in the URL and we don't want it in the breadcrumb structure. Now, women's flats, this is just a very general, basic heading. It's a H1, which is great. But generally, you don't need to have, just women's flats. Why not investigate ways to incorporate more keywords in the main heading? So maybe women's flats or women's flats and shoes, or women's flat shoes, or discover women's flats, styles, colors, fills for any occasion. Incorporating additional keywords into the title rather than just a generic women's flats. Okay? So that's obviously very beneficial. So if I go to another page, for example, like men's activewear, again, we have men's and then we've got men's activewear. So we just need men's activewear. And in the URL, we've got category, men's activewear. Again, drop in the category, right? Probably the best things to do at this point would be, if I click on this URL, men doesn't go anywhere. So why would I even have men in the category URL structure when there's not even a page that exists for just men singular? It makes no sense. So you would be starting off with men's activewear, because even in your existing site architecture, you have /men's. So why would you start it with category /men when both of those don't even exist in terms of your site structure hierarchy? It doesn't exist. It's not in the URL structure, and it's not anywhere in the site. It's actually page not found. So, something like, refresh the page, get rid of men's activewear, category doesn't exist, men doesn't exist, and then you get a page not found. So inconsistent URL structure and site architecture is holding you back tremendously, really. Because if this is optimized, the foundation is far more solid and the results would be far more achieved. You'll be able to get better results. Because consistency within the way in which Google crawls sites, consistency and accessibility is the two most important technical SEO fundamentals, and this will dramatically improve in KMART's SEO. Those two things, just those two things. Then we move on to the meta title and description, which a lot of funny things happen with the meta title and description. The meta title will appear in the site in your address bar right now. The homepage meta title is KMART Australia. So if I have a look, and I look for the word title, we have multiple titles. This title, there should only be one of them, and there should never be in the actual beyond the body section. Title, if you go to W3 Schools, title. This is the official W3 Schools HTML markup site, and you can actually scroll down where it says note. You cannot have more than one title element in the HTML document. The title is the title of the page. You only have one title. But if I actually look for title, there's one, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one, there's another one, 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 another one. So it just keeps going. Now, there should only be one title. It's at the start of a document. Hopefully I can find the first one in the document. Here we go. And so you have a look at this title. Oh, where is it? KMART Australia, low prices for life. And again, you've got KMART in there. Now, this is where it should be, and there only should be one. And then you've obviously got the meta description, which for this audit, we won't necessarily be dealing with today. But this title is not capturing unbranded traffic at all. It's, not even attempting to attract unbranded. And the homepage meta title in the address bar is a little bit different than what you see here. And I believe this is because of a JavaScript manipulation, the way in which your site is heavily JavaScript. And this can cause problems with what Google sees when they crawl the site and what a user sees. Okay, so the meta titles is not capturing unbranded traffic. So for the homepage, we would choose very highly search engine friendly keywords, very generic in nature because it's the homepage. KMART does a lot of things. We've got retail, we've got furniture, we've got rugs, we've got desks, we've got office furniture. So we've got a lot of categories. So we would choose the best, most generic categories that would encompass pretty much everything within the 60 character limit to try to then rank those keywords higher in the unbranded to generate a higher amount of unbranded search. And if you have a look at these 3 pages, I just want to quickly address these. At the moment, if you have a look at the titles up here, they switch. So if I hard refresh, oh, it's gone Kmart shop. Did you see that? Kmart shop. So if I hard refresh again, shop, category, shop, Kmart, back to shop. This one too. Shop, Kmart, and then it just flicks around. This is an issue with the way in which your site is built. Now the title, I've actually never really seen this. I'm so sorry, I'm just getting over a cold. Except for sites that are heavy JavaScript based. And the problem with JavaScript is that it can create crawling issues when Google crawls the site. So, for example, if I take a look at, I'll get the men's bomber jackets in a minute. So this is a snapshot. So this is how Google crawled the site. Okay. So Google crawled KMART category beauty moisturizer on the 16th of June, which was yesterday, well, American time at 3:37 GMT time. If you have a look, the products, Google cannot actually physically see the products. This is the biggest issue that KMART has in terms of passing link equity to your products. How Google crawls your site is absolutely essential to making sure that every element is crawlable and accessible. As I mentioned at the start of this audit, crawlable and accessible. This is the most important concepts of technical SEO. Again, we've got a very vague title. We've got a pretty decent description. The breadcrumbs is inconsistent with the URL structure because they don't match up exactly. We've got category, beauty, and moisturizer. So we've got category, beauty, moisturizer, but here we've got beauty, category, and then the URLs are all different. So that's a whole issue in itself that we've obviously addressed to some regard. But the biggest issue is getting these products link equity transferred. You actually have a big problem in this area. And so you might say, but Andrew, we asked our developer, and this product, if I check it for indexing, it is indexed. And it is. It actually is indexed. When I crawled Kmart, a lot of the products don't even come up in a JavaScript crawl, and that is an issue. But why is it indexed? Because you guys have I'm going to find it. A robots, you've got a XML sitemap. So you've got a sitemap indexed. You've got a product sitemap. So let's go to that product. So you've submitted this to Google. Google sees this. Bing sees this. And basically, this is the reason that you have, in my opinion, pretty much all of your products indexed. Right? These are all of your product pages. Now, you say, then what's the problem? The problem is if you have very authoritative category pages and Google cannot actually crawl those product pages from within actual pages that Kmart has built up over time that has a lot. Think of each page as a certain amount of authority. And you've got thousands and thousands and thousands of pages with products on it that Google can't see, then all of that authority is not going to those product pages, despite the fact that they're indexed. They're not being regularly crawled from a natural crawling session from Google. The authority that the moisturizer page could be sending those products is not happening. And so when I was looking for, let's say, men's bomber jacket, you got Maya, we've got a company called Bravo One that I've never heard, Zara, the iconic, the jacket maker, right? KMART is at the bottom in a popular product section, which is a merchant snippet, which is good, but it's not as good as being where Maya is. Or I just did men's because I wanted to see if it generated better traffic. So this is the sponsor, is obviously the Google Ads section. But again, bomber jacket, this page is not, you can just see how your products are potentially performing. They're not ranking as highly is if you have sites like Maya that is transferring that page authority, and then you have that KMART isn't, well, that's obviously missing out on improving the rankings for how many products does Kmart have? Literally that many can be improved by improving your crawlability. So in this page, normally the products will load up in a browser, right? Let's click on the canonical. So but if I have a look for this product, copy link in the source code, I can't find it. It's not there. That's a problem. Google cannot crawl links it can't see in the source code. This is, again, a major issue. Now, the last part that I want to discuss is once we solve this problem, you've got another problem with linking. Let me just go to women's clothing. All women's clothing doesn't really make any difference. If you click on this link, it actually we're linking to the non-canonical version. Non-canonical version. So what we're saying is once we fix up the internal linking, we want to by default link to the products that we actually want indexed in Google. We don't want to link potentially to the canonical version, the non-canonical version, because what we're saying is, we're saying, Google, crawl these links. Oh, but by the way, we don't actually want them indexed. And so it sends mixed signals. We're saying one thing, but we want you to link to this, but then we have a directive that says do something else. So we don't want to link to products with any sort of that forces the canonical. The canonical, you might have legitimately 10 pages that look exactly the same and that you need to essentially index one version of those 10 different similarity pages. So we don't waste time. With a site like Kmart, when Google crawls Kmart, it only has a certain amount of time to crawl your pages. And so you want them to get to content that frequently changes, content that's very important, products that are very important. And if you're wasting time with canonicals, you're slowing down Google's ability to get to more and more web pages on your site. Okay, so the canonical, I've just installed this add-on in my browser. The canonical is actually without the selection added. And again, the breadcrumbs for the products do not match the URL structure. Again, product, we can get rid of it. Actually, even though I would change the breadcrumb has a better URL. So you probably have something like women's, clothing / dresses, and that's probably enough. That will be a better URL or like /MIDI if you wanted to, right? So have one URL that is the most authoritative version that includes at least some of the URL categories. The reason that developers generally build it with products is because you can have multiple products in multiple categories, and therefore what is the URL? The way WordPress solves this problem with its blogs, because you can have blogs in multiple categories, is that you still set the primary URL. So it doesn't matter if that blog appears in women's clothing and then it appears in clothing, you've already set it to women's clothing. So when they click on the blog in the clothing or the clothing section, then the women's clothing URL would be generated. To me, that's probably the best way to do it. Having /product in the URL doesn't actually do anything like having the word category in there. So to, again, reiterate some of the problems, we want to improve crawlability, we want to improve accessibility, we want to improve our titles and our descriptions and our breadcrumbs, we want to improve the rankings for our products, we want to actually transfer page authority, and we want to be able to fix the multiple issues with JavaScript and linking to products. Just to begin with. And there's more. There's a lot of duplicate titles, there's a lot of duplicate descriptions, and it just, the rabbit hole gets deeper and deeper and deeper. But for today's quick audit to demonstrate my value that I could bring to KMART, my expertise that I can bring to KMART, the absolute admiration I have for a company like KMART and being a part of that story, I'm hopefully being able to demonstrate that today. And if you have any questions at any time, please feel free to email me, and I'll love to set up a face-to-face, video-to-video interview to discuss further. Well, thank you so much for listening, and I look forward to hearing from you.